Hello and welcome to News Now. The Nigerian Army on Friday killed 3 female suicide bombers in Maiduguri, Borno State, northeast Nigeria. According to the Borno State Police Public Relations Officer Victor Isuku, the 3 female bombers were shot by a military patrol team while they were attempting to enter Maiduguri. This is the latest in the series of failed attacks by the terrorists. The Borno State Police Commissioner Damian Chukwu recently blamed the increased Boko Haram attacks on the coming of the dry season, which he says gives the insurgents ample access routes to invade the city through bush paths. While the army says the attacks, though regrettable, does not call for serious concern. The National Emergency Management Agency says the number of internally displaced persons in Yola, Adamawa State has dropped from 60,000 to 18,958. In a statement on Friday, the agency says the drop in the number of IDPs is as a result of the voluntary return of some of the displaced persons to their homes. The statement also says there are over 900 internally displaced children enrolled in various camps in the state. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday called on African leaders to form a strong united front to defeat terrorism and violent extremism, which he says was inhibiting development on the continent. At a meeting with Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto at the presidential villa in Abuja, President Buhari expressed concern that the continent was still grappling with acts and effects of terrorism after a successful decolonization campaign. Acknowledging the valued cooperation between Nigeria and Kenya in the fight against terrorism, the president commended the East African country for the recent successes recorded in tackling terrorism in the region. In his remarks, Deputy President Ruto commended President Buhari for his leadership, particularly on regional security and the fight against corruption. Ruto says Buhari's effort to eradicate terrorism and violent extremism had emboldened the continent's resolve to achieve lasting peace and security. Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibe Kachukwu, says he is disappointed by the recent attacks on oil installations in the country's Niger Delta region. 2 separate groups, the Niger Delta Greenland Justice Mandate and the Niger Delta Avengers, had last week claimed responsibilities for consecutive attacks on a Transfocados export pipeline in Delta State, southern Nigeria. The attacks, which came just a week after President Muhammadu Buhari's meeting with stakeholders in the Niger Delta region, has significantly reduced Nigeria's planned crude oil exports for December. Speaking to newsmen on Friday, Kachukwu condemned the attack, saying he is deeply disappointed by the development. The minister, however, reiterated the government's commitment to dialogue and appeal to all the militants to stop the attacks and accept the government's peace talks. Nigeria's Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, has reiterated the government commitment to diversify the economy away from oil as it seeks to move out of a recession. Speaking at the EU-Nigeria Business Forum on Friday, Ahmed says the government is using the current economic problems to reform the country's economy to achieve sustainable growth. She says the government is targeting a 3% growth in gross domestic product for the year 2017 and much more in 2018 and 2019. Nigeria is currently in a recession, and President Muhammadu Buhari has repeated that his government's focus is on diversifying the economy to promote exports and grow jobs. He also aims to increase capital investment in the economy through fiscal budgetary process to drive growth. President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday held a closed-door meeting with Senate President Bukola Saraki at the presidential villa in Abuja. This is the 10th time in a week that Senate leader and the president will be meeting. Details of the meeting, just like the previous ones, were not disclosed to the media. However, it is suspected that the issue of the loan request and the 2017 budget was discussed. The Senate had last week rejected the president's proposal to borrow from external sources for what it called a lack of documents supporting the request as referenced in the letter. The Senate had also dismissed the medium-term expenditure framework submitted to it for approval, describing it as empty. The Nigerian Society of Engineers says it is ready to assist the government in its drive to diversify the nation's economy through building an industrial cluster in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. Now, this was the crux of the discussion at a forum of the Nigerian Society of Engineers Ikeja chapter in Lagos on Friday. The engineers say the country can boast of some of the brightest professionals in the industry, which is a plus to reinventing the nation's economy. Correspondent Abiola Ismail has that story.
Level, it was the immediate past.
With the nation's economy in recession, economic experts have said one important way to get out of it is massive investment in engineering and construction to stimulate activities in the economy.
You can, one way or the other,
obviously, taking the cue from that, the engineers gathered here say they can play a critical role in getting Nigeria out of the recession through the development of engineering and technology. All they say they want is encouragement from the government. Speakers at the forum called for the extension of Nigeria's contract law to the engineering sector to enable Nigerian engineers to assume full ownership of engineering works in the country. They decried what they say is the undue attention being given to foreign engineers and Western governments, urging Nigerian governments to reverse the trend in order to empower the local professionals.
So long as we are tied to the apron strings of the international political system, are you getting now, which controls our own politics? Our engineering and technology will find it difficult to move because politics control society, including engineering.
I'd like to see special attention given to the finishing of locally fabricated machines for better appeal and presentation, particularly the casing of the control panel. The wiring of most Asian chip equipment look tacky inside, but the panel casing is more attractive. Our poor finishing and casing belie the capabilities of our local products.
On allegation of substandard works being carried out by local engineers, the NSE chairman Ikeja chapter says that is not an excuse to deprive Nigerians of engineering works.
Indians are for Indians and they are taking other countries, and we want to continue. If that's what government wants, but as much as we can, we will tell them no. We will say as much as we can, we will continue to do our own bit. But we want to encourage them, support us. An average Nigerian engineer is still the best all over the world. An average Nigerian engineer can be a success in everything he does.
The NSC says the country's economy will be enhanced when government patronizes local engineers in infrastructural development. Abiola Ismail, TV360 Lagos.
The Court of Appeal in Abuja has granted the application filed by Eyitayo Jegede asking for leave to appeal the judgment of the Federal High Court Abuja, which ordered that Jimoh Ibrahim be recognized as the People's Democratic Party's governorship candidate in the Ondo State governorship election. Jimoh Ibrahim is a candidate elected by the Ali Modu Sharif-led faction of the party, while Eyitayo Jegede is a candidate elected by the Ahmed Makarfi faction of the party. Now, the three-man panel of the appeal court, led by Justice Ibrahim Saulawa, also granted similar application filed by Ahmed Makarfi and secretary of his faction, Ben Obi, to challenge Ibrahim's candidacy. The court also dismissed an application filed by lawyers representing Jimoh Ibrahim, challenging the jurisdiction of the new panel set up to address the Ondo State crisis. The Ondo State governorship election is scheduled for November the 26th, 2016. Deputy Inspector General of Police Joshua Kabila says the high rate of unemployment in the country is one of the key causes of increasing crime rate in Nigeria. Speaking to newsmen on Friday, Kabila says the police is looking at ways to create more job opportunities for youths who want to enroll into the force. He, however, warned that unemployment should not be used as an excuse to venture into crime.
There is a close relationship between economic activities and crime. In a depressed economy, you are likely to see a lot of people going into crime, particularly those of them that are the working class, that are energetic, that are well learned, that are ready to demonstrate and practicalize what they taught. And in a situation where the space is already occupied and there are no opportunities for them to be employed, some of them also would want to be on their own. And the initial capital to start might not be handy because of the collateral that is to be offered. And so those of them that would have been good citizens who would have loved to perform their civic responsibility, you see them vying out and keying out into crime. And in order to let them know that we need to be independent and creative, we need just a little capital to be able to start. There are a lot of programs, there are a lot of NGOs that shape people and youth, telling them how they could start with nothing or a little money. We're going to draw that empirical, and we're also trying to say that we must grow our economy and that we mustn't use crime as an alternative to joblessness and creating jobs.
The Nigerian government on Friday extended the bilateral agreement which it formed now with the Russian, which formed the Nigeria-Russia Joint Commission. The agreement is expected to see both countries collaborate in the areas of economy and security. Speaking after a meeting between representatives of both countries on Friday, the Director of European Affairs Division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Baba Garba, says the renewed cooperation will also help the nation in the procurement of arms and ammunition from Russia at affordable rates.
The Russian companies have shown interest in different aspects, pursuing this diversification of the economy, both in agriculture, in mines, we're talking less of crude now, and areas of security. And then we have military cooperation also that we've discussed. We are now renewing the cooperation that is existing between our two countries. This will definitely open doors for us to get more than equipment, arms, and from Russia at a moderate price, than going into international market. Those are the areas that we concentrated on this Joint Commission.
Hello? Yeah, I found your wallet in front of a supermarket. Meet me at Apple Junction. Yes, I'll be waiting for you.
Now we find out. Two of us.
Thank you very much, officer. It's surprising that men like you still exist in the police force.
Yes, so... Oh, yes.
This is just a token of my appreciation.
Oh, no. You don't need to do this. We're only doing our job.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Now I know police is really my friend.
Yes.
Friend. Hey. Okay, which came up with this one? I don't understand.
You know your problem. You are greedy. I'm a policeman who is doing his job. All forms of corruption in the force. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. Nigeria's overnight lending rate rose to 22% on Friday from 13% last week, owing to tight liquidity worsened by banks' inability to get access to their balances with the regulator. Traders say lenders were demanding as high as 25% to place funds on the market overnight, and that a technical glitch at the central bank system, which started last month, had not been resolved. They also say rates are expected to climb higher next week owing to bond auctions being planned. The central bank plans to sell around 120 billion naira in treasury bills and 95 billion naira in bonds at an auction next week. The Nigerian government has been asked to use branding to achieve a positive image for the country and promote its products at the international markets. Now, experts who disclosed this at an event in Lagos say this is critical now that Nigeria's economy is in recession. They believe Nigeria could use its population advantage, vast solid mineral and its cultural endowment to push for its branding acceptability at the diaspora level through the means of social media. Correspondent Abiola Ismail has that story.
So easy, fantastic. Governments at different times have come up with different branding projects with the aim of projecting a positive image of the country in the eyes of the foreigners and the international communities. But finding the right mix to what exactly Nigeria can use to project herself has been the challenge. However, speakers at this event want the government to first identify its brand and capitalize on its population advantage, its people and culture as comparative advantages to rebrand the country's image. Speaking on the theme, enhancing the value of the brand Nigeria the ICT way, experts say Nigerian branding is an act of creating favorable images for the country through marketing communications, reputation management, and identifying the core values of the country.
Government themselves need to know what do they want to push out. So it's a good thing they've said change begins with me. But do we understand the kind of change that we want? If governments understand the kind of change that they want, they can now send the message to the customers. The customers are the people, are the citizens. So the government needs to clearly define who we are and what do they want us to be known for. However, when you say government, there's this tendency to think it's just some selected people. But we as individuals ourselves, we need to understand who we are. We need to understand our culture. We are losing our culture. But thank God, we have all these young musical stars coming up with their own different style of music. So once we start knowing that, then we can start preaching buy Nigeria, brand Nigeria, this is Nigeria.
Only problem is how do we change the negative perception of Nigeria in the world eye? Everybody you talk to says, Nigeria, oh, corrupt. Excuse me. What about their own countries? What percentage of the Nigerian population are actually bad? What percentage of their population is bad? Simple. The difference is when Nigerians go to some of those countries, they make it really loud and we are bad, as opposed to just filling in and work with the rest of the people. So, no.
We need to understand that a brand is a person, it's a personality. So to even be able to succeed in branding anything, there needs to be a personality. The people who are the brand must first be willing to own the brand. So to even create a brand Nigeria, who is Nigeria? Nigeria is you and I. Do we even believe that we are Nigerians? Do we see ourselves as Nigerians? How do we associate? What is the value of this entity we call Nigeria? Once you can buy into it as an individual, then you begin to create a brand.
The convener of the Brand Nigeria initiative, Taiwo Oluboyode, says social media can help Nigeria in projecting its core values and rebranding.
We live in a global village. Social media, for example, whatever you say here, people are seeing it somewhere else. People are seeing it around the world. Do you understand? So the choice of our topic is something that will get people to what do we need to do. If this is our own, we own this brand, then we need to enhance it. So what do we need to do to enhance it? That's why we come about the topic, enhancing the value. So what are those things? Using the ICT platform. Yeah, I think according to SNC, we have over 100 million internet users in Nigeria now. So looking at what can we do to enhance the value.
The high point of the occasion was the recognition of the top 50 brands in Nigeria, which cut across major sectors of the economy. Abiola Ismail, TV360 Lagos.
Now, oil prices dipped on Friday as the market refocused on a persistent fuel supply overhang that is not expected to abate unless OPEC and other producers cut their output significantly. International Brent crude futures traded at $45.70 per barrel, while U.S. crude futures were trading 29 cents lower at $44.37 per barrel. Traders said a crude and refined product glut that has dogged markets for over 2 years was dragging on prices. Nigeria says it is also working out new oil and gas policies to attract more private investors and boost crude production by 500,000 barrels per day by 2020, state firm NNPC says on Thursday. A second night of protest in the U.S. against President-elect Donald Trump on Friday turned violent in Portland, Oregon. Several thousand demonstrators gathered in the center of the western city. Some smashed shop and car windows, threw firecrackers and set rubbish alight. Trump had earlier said in a tweet that the demonstrations were unfair and had been incited by the media. The protesters, mainly young people, say a Trump presidency would create deep divisions along racial and gender lines. South African President Jacob Zuma says he's concerned about unwarranted public attacks on him by former anti-corruption watchdog Thuli Mandozela. The comments come a day after Mandozela defended the release of an audio recording of a meeting with the president during her investigation into allegations of influence peddling in Zuma's government. Zuma lodged a complaint this week with the Office of the Public Protector over the release of the audio recording, which Mandozela says she had absolutely no regrets about because the truth must be told. That's according to her. To sports now, Super Eagles coach Gernot Rohr says he will build his new team around captain John Obi Mikel. The Chelsea midfielder, whose contract with his club expires at the end of next season, is yet to make an appearance for the London club. Despite his lack of match practice, Rohr says he still believes in the midfielder's abilities and insisted that he is in good shape. He says Mikel's problem started when he chose to represent Nigeria at the Rio 2016 Olympics and criticized manager Antonio Conte for snubbing the 29-year-old. Mikel, who made his national team debut in 2006, has made 68 appearances for the Eagles, scoring 4 goals. He is expected to captain Nigeria in its second World Cup qualifier against Algeria on Saturday, November the 12th. Andy Murray was on Friday presented with a trophy for reaching the summit of men's tennis ahead of the ATP World Tour Finals in London. The 29-year-old became the first British player to reach world number 1 following his triumph at the Paris Masters. The Brit had an incredible year, winning 8 titles, including gold at the Rio 2016 Olympics and the Wimbledon, and was runner-up at the Australian Open in January and the French Open, of course, in May. England police officials opened investigation into the alleged corruption among the country's football managers. City of London police made the announcement on Friday and in a statement but said no arrest has been made. The corruption probe was conducted by the Daily Telegraph. Now, the biggest casualty of the probe so far is former England manager Sam Allardyce, who was sacked after a video showed him using his role as England manager to negotiate a separate deal for himself. Other coaches who have been indicted are Southampton's assistant manager Eric Black, Barnsley's Tommy Wright, and Queen's Park Rangers manager Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. Well, that's it in news now. We thank you very much for watching. Continue to stay tuned to TV360.